Wendy with us in studio today for a conversation that is going to be primarily focused on the scourge of baby wipes that end up in our stormwater systems as we interrogate claims of biodegradability. So welcome, and Wendy, looking forward to that. But first, you've got a very happy update for us on Philip's long battle to get to see his granddaughter in Ireland.
Yes, I cannot overstate how happy this news made me, probably second only to Philip.
Yeah.
But because I've been talking to him every day pretty much since last week. So yes, at that stage he knew that his visa had been granted, but of course it's useless unless it's in your actual passport, and his passport had to be couriered to him in Virginia West in the Northern Cape, and by yesterday he didn't have it. The company that VFS, the company that's mandated to do the applications process, they gave it to FedEx. And after that, FedEx said they'd given it to another company, wouldn't tell him which company it was. So he was on the phone phoning. Long story short, he phoned me because he had to leave his home yesterday at around lunchtime to overnight in George and then fly to Joburg and then on to Dublin today. And so he had to leave at 1 o'clock. And 2 hours before, he still didn't have the passport paper. And then he phoned to say he located it. It was with a courier company in George. It had been languishing in Durban, went there by mistake.
For heaven's sake.
I know, can you believe it? Anyway, he had to go to George, as I say, and he picked it up. And today he sent me a photograph, which I requested, and I didn't think with the whole Russian drama of it all he'd remember. But bless him, he sent me a photograph of him holding his passport.
So he's
on his way.
As far as we know, got on his plane and is on his way to Dublin
it'll
as
be,
we
I think,
speak.
this evening.
Okay. What a relief, but what absolute just ineptitude. It is infuriating, Wendy, and as we were just discussing off air, the infuriating part is there's nothing we can do about it.
Total powerlessness.
It's such powerlessness.
Yeah, I mean, Philip was, every touch point that as the days went by, it became more and more urgent, and it was a case of don't call us, we'll call you. Of course we won't, and just leave it at that. And even with me agitating on the VFS side, it was like, oh, the person who can answer to this is away, just abroad, and
the level of service speaks to their awareness of the fact that they hold all the power in this relationship. So. It really is very obvious. Yeah. Anyway,
so
as
happy
ending.
As
that is a happy
but
ending.
But a very close call.
Yeah, by hours, literally. But Philip got his passport with visa intact, and off he goes. And we wish him a very, very happy trip to Ireland. Wendy, the other story we want to follow up on is one that came in last week. Tyrone sent us a WhatsApp about being affected by an unexpected spa closure. And I think rather than let me summarize it, let's just replay for you what Tyrone's message sent to us. Obi, can we take a listen to that clip, please? It says, I booked a spa day at the spa on Zevenwacht Estate. I booked booked on the 4th of July and paid my 999 Rand. They emailed me to confirm and check our requirements for lunch. That was on the 4th of July. On the 9th of July, I received an email to say there will be no more treatments. The business has been sold. And then what do we do now? Because this is the letter that he was sent. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we've had to suspend all services until further notice. We sincerely appreciate your loyalty and support over the years. We're in the process of selling the business and therefore cannot commit to any future bookings. Possible refunds will be communicated in due course. Thank you for your understanding and patience. What does one do? Possible refunds. They took a booking 5 days before announcing they were selling the business.
Absolutely shocking.
It's totally unconscionable. They had to know that they would not honor that booking. So what does Tyrone do?
He sends me an email with all the details, and I very nicely try and get hold of that
Infinity Wellness Spa. Okay.
Get hold of them.
Thanks for that, Obi. Now, he did indeed, and Tyrone wasn't the only one. You heard from Ellis, who's sent me a follow-up WhatsApp this afternoon, also very concerned, and poor Ellis spent 3,900 Rand on a spa voucher just 2 weeks before the business sent out that sorry, we're closing email, so in exactly the same position as Tyrone. Wendy, you've had some further engagement in the past week. Tell us what happened.
Sure. So Zevenwacht director Denise Johnson contacted me to share some background on the issue. Bakween, I'm not sure if I'm mutilating.
Bakwena, I think it was, or something like that,
the letters dropped off here. Which had recently branded as Infinity, she said, had leased the premises on the estate since 2016, While the estate was aware that they were experiencing difficulties, mainly because they were behind in their rental payments, they'd undertaken to pay back the arrears, and business was expected to pick up after the rebranding. And it came as a complete surprise, Denise said to us last week, when they announced the immediate closure of the spa. I think the management and booking staff did not expect the closure, and it seems they were also taken by surprise, she said. We will do everything that we can to assist the guests to obtain a refund. I think it's important to note here that they're a completely separate entity.
Not owned by Zevenwacht.
No.
They were renting space on Zevenwacht.
Yeah. So Denise later got back to me to say, I've had a very positive meeting with a potential new spa operator. If they enter into an agreement with us between the two companies, that's the new spa and Zevenwacht, we will attempt to honor all bookings that have not been refunded. As I have no access to the database or list of guests, we are keeping a record of all inquiries that we receive. So I sent her Tyrone and Ellis's details. So those are on the list. And I think we can say that's a pretty good glimmer of hope there.
I think that's very decent
and
of
a very
them.
nice attitude.
Very
indeed.
decent of them, because neither Zevenwacht nor the new spa owners have any obligation.
None.
It wasn't their promise. It wasn't them taking the money. But the fact that they would like to restore the goodwill and restore that service that was promised, I think is fantastic. So well done to Zevenwacht, and let's hope the new spa operator who comes in will continue with that attitude of honouring the bookings.
The vouchers. Yeah.
The main thing here is to let them know if you are impacted. So we have Tyrone and Ellis's details, and those have been passed on to Zevenwacht. Here's another one. Colleen saying, we bought a Wiki Deals couples massage, but had not yet made a booking. Colleen, please send us an email. You can mail it to straight to Wendy, or you can mail it to me if you prefer, if that's easier, and we will forward it on to Zevenwacht to add you to the list of those that they know they need to try and accommodate.
Or in Colleen's case, she could go to that platform and she would be entitled to the value of what she paid for that voucher to be used. That's how those deals work, to be used on another offer. It would be valid for 3 years, because it's a prepaid voucher. It would be valid for at least 3 years. So that's another option for her.
Okay, so Colleen, you either go back to Wiki Deals and say they can't honor this one that I bought. Can I get a equivalent value in vouchers to spend? Or if you would like to try and get onto the list to be reaccommodated at the new spa venue, please do pop me. Easiest is pop me an email, pippa@capetalk.co.za, and we'll make sure it reaches Zevenwacht. And if anybody else listening is in the same boat of having had a booking at whether it was still when it was called Bakwena or when it was rebranded as Infinity Spa, the one on Zevenwacht Estate, which has now closed, and you were not able to get a refund, please let us know so that we can pass that information on. Zevenwacht does not have access to the booking information that vacating spa would have been in charge of. So it's imperative that you reach out to them, because they're not able to reach out to you. I hope that's clear. And Wendy, thank you very much for following up. I hope that is going to be a satisfactory solution for all parties affected by this closure.
Me too.
Okay, and now on to the main subject of the day, which is the so-called biodegradable wet wipes that aren't quite the green win some consumers might think they are. Wendy, you've done some really deep digging and got some stats on how many of them end up in our stormwater drainage systems, in our rivers, washed up on our beaches. It's absolutely horrifying.
Yeah, so you've got two claims here with these wet wipes. Ones which say they're biodegradable, and the other that say they're flushable, because wherever you're using them on your body, that's how, it's mostly moist toilet tissue, which is a very, they're saying, they market it as saying get cleaner sort of thing, and use and it's not a cheap process. So you'd imagine they're used by high-end consumers who fall for the marketing.
Okay.
So they cause significant blockages in sewer systems globally, all wipes that are flushed, whatever their marketing claim is, particularly in large cities, which lead to costly repairs and obviously cause a lot of environmental damage. So the City of Cape Town's water and sanitation teams, listen to these numbers, had to attend to 1,072 sewer blockages in Camps Bay, Buckhoven, Clifton and Sea Point between July 2023 and March of this year.
Sorry, over 1,000 blockages in just those four suburbs.
Yes.
in the space of not quite 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, sure, that's
And
alarming.
one of the main causes of these blockages, says the City of Cape Town, are wet wipes being flushed down the toilet, along with some other items which do not belong in the sewer system. The city doesn't care what's said on the package. If
They
it's
don't
not
want it
toilet
there.
paper, if it's thicker and whatever, then don't do it, is what they're saying. And I suppose as the ones that need to deal with the problem, they've got a right to say that.
To say that. So, okay, so 6,000 kilograms of waste removed from their sewer pump station monthly. A lot of it wet wipes. And Wendy, they shared some photographs with us, and we have shared those on our social media platforms to just demonstrate and illustrate this. If you do not believe us, or you are still operating under the misperception that these are products which just go away when you flush them away, I urge you to go to our social media pages and take a look at those photographs and see for yourself what is happening.
They're actually from the city's website,
Yep.
and I was given a link to them. So they're actually out there, but I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen them.
Yeah,
But they really are, and the wipes are very, very visible.
and very obvious. And Wendy, the problem is not just the wipes themselves, but it's the way they cling to other rubbish.
Yes, so they combine with grease and other debris to form fatbergs, which became infamous rather, in 2013 when London removed a 15-ton fatberg,
I
mostly
remember that.
made up of discarded wipes, and it took them weeks to dismantle that. Water UK reports that wipes cause 93% of UK sewer blockages, with 300,000 incidents costing them 100 million rand a year. So, I mean, other countries are in many cases much better at keeping statistics on these sort of things. But I think we can draw from that the fact that this is a big problem in any countries or municipalities' sewer system. So, as I said, a lot of these products are marketed across the world as flushable or biodegradable in the case of those that they're not telling you to flush. But these claims are in many cases inaccurate or misleading, and this is what leads to significant sewer system issues. So it's said that in the case of the flushable wipes, that they do not disintegrate quickly enough to avoid clogging sewer systems. Because unlike toilet paper, which breaks down almost immediately in water, wet wipes are designed to remain intact with wet.
That
When
makes
wet,
sense,
because
yes.
they kept, and if what they're in is not going to break them down for however long they're on the shelf before you use them, doesn't it just make logical sense that they're not going to magically disappear and disintegrate and degrade, or whatever word you want to use, as they go into the system? The problem is, yes, they will break down, but in many cases they reach the sewage system and start causing the damage before they've had a chance to do it, and that's really
It's the same story as so many of these so-called compostable products, Wendy,
Yes.
that they're not going to be composted in ideal composting conditions,
No.
which would allow them to break down. So you can claim that they are compostable or biodegradable, but that's not the same thing as saying that they are being composted or being biodegraded, because they're never given the chance to do so.
And in the case of flushable, that they're going to behave like ordinary toilet paper once you flush them, because they've been sitting in water and they're still intact when you get them in your hand. I mean, apply
What's
some
magically
logic.
going to change when they go down the loo?
So here's another stat. In a Toronto, and I had so many, I just had to leave most of them out for time purposes. But in Toronto Metropolitan University, their study had researchers testing 23 wipes that were labeled as flushable, and found that only 2 partially disintegrated.
Sure.
Similarly, in the case of wipes labeled as biodegradable, made with cellulose-based fibers such as rayon or viscose, they do degrade, as we said, but in many cases not quickly enough. A 2023 Science Direct study found that more than half of so-called biodegradable wipes contained synthetic fibers or chemical additives that inhibited degrading, leading to persistent microfibers that polluted waterways. So here's an industry that is, an association rather, that is quoted when you ask the manufacturers of flushable wipes to justify their claims. It's a US-based association called INDA, the Association of the Non-Woven Fabrics Industry. And INDA has developed voluntary guidelines, because there are no government regulations around this, right? So developed voluntary guidelines for flushability. But without going into too much detail, and there's a lot of detail, these have been criticized for not replacing or replicating, rather, real world sewer conditions. So they'll give them, say, 3 minutes for it to break down, but in 3 minutes, the damage has been done.
It's already chunking up
yes,
a pipe somewhere in
yes.
the system.
So that sort of thing. And there are moves, I know in the UK, to have it put an end to safe to flush or flushable wipes, because it's
of
a
the
massive
same problem
there.
Well, Vic just mailing in to say, thanks to your previous program on the disposal of wet wipes, I now know only to put them in the dustbin and never to flush them down the loo. The problem is, Wendy, so much of the packaging is still clearly saying flushable, or even naming them brands like Flushies, which imply that they can be flushed.
Yes.
And again, I'm going to come back to that phrase you just used, real world sewer conditions. It's one thing to say that in perfect laboratory conditions, this product will biodegrade or will break down eventually. It doesn't get eventually when you put it down the toilet into the sewer system. It's a matter of minutes before it's into the main flowing pipes, and where it is going to coagulate with all the other things that shouldn't be there.
Exactly. And the other problem, Pippa, is a user issue, and that is, and one of the brands we'll get to in a moment, they say don't use more than 2, but human nature is why use 2 and I can do a better job with 4. And so people, and that's...
Use a fistful, and that all goes down at the same time.
That's guaranteed to cause a problem.
Well, a couple of interesting comments here. Gerard saying, thank you for this program. I want to add that critical pumps, which are submerged pumps at sewer collector booster pumps, burn out and fail because of things like this, plus rags, including kitchen towels, those typical red or blue dailies. They get entrapped in the fans of the pumps. And that's one of our council members, in fact. It's Alderman Gerard Fourie. Thank you for adding to that. Marika saying, when I was in London, I read that the riverbed of the Thames is lined with mounds and mounds of wet wipes. I will never buy one again. Sheila thinks it's time baby wipes and disposable nappies should be banned. And then a long input from Jamie. I'm just going to try and summarize here. Jamie saying nappies and sanitary hygiene products also need to be added to this list. Many of them don't biodegrade even in landfills. Reducing environmental impact and landfill waste starts at the production, design and manufacturing of goods, or of packaging in the case of food and beverages. It's ludicrous that consumers are forced to accept unsustainable products which pollute the environment and create landfill waste. Products need to be designed so that they last longer, are suitable for repair and servicing. Food and beverage packaging needs to be economized and designed so that it is biodegradable or composted. And I'm going to say again, biodegradable and actually going to biodegrade, compostable and likely to be composted.
Two very different things
that need to be understood. Saying that it can happen in perfect lab conditions is not the same as saying it will happen when you throw it away.
It's the same with the term recyclable.
Yep, and recyclable versus
in
actually
South Africa,
being recycled.
In which part of the country, by which plant, it's technically possible, but it's not happening in many cases.
I'm in the plastics industry, and we struggle with the same thing with compostable plastic. And a lot of the time, when you dig deeper, it's about industrial composting as opposed to being compostable at home in your own compost heap. So, just a bit of food for thought.
Hi, Pippa. You haven't yet had the conversation about biodegradability and home compostability yet with Wendy, but I just thought I'd shoot this message through. It is a huge bugbear of mine. I think you know that. And it applies equally to claims around dog poo bags. And so many of them are completely spurious. And yet those that are genuine, it makes no sense. I mean, why would you have a compostable dog poo bag when the person who is using it is not going to make any effort to home compost it? And similarly, is not going to make any effort to watch it biodegrade, because ultimately it ends up in the municipal waste stream where it goes to anaerobic landfill, where it's just going to sit as it would if it was plastic. So it's a big issue, and it's just greenwashing, pure and simple. Caroline from the M3, actually. Bye.
Hi, Pippa. I've seen advertising and been seeing a bamboo product that is a wipe, as well as bamboo disposable nappies. They claim to be biodegradable, Would that be so?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Wendy, do you?
There was a product in Pick and Pay that I saw when I was doing my research that it was sort of being marketed as a baby wipe, but it said organic, biodegradable. That was their whole, it was like plastered all over the pack. And when I looked for a company name and address, contact details, there was nothing. So I went to Pick and Pay and I said, this was last week, and I said, please could you ask your buyers to give me a name and whatever, and it hasn't happened yet, unfortunately, but that was something I also wanted to interrogate because it was a very, very bold claim in the context of that market.
I'm going to send the same generic response that it depends on if they are being disposed of in the correct way. Any product is only going to biodegrade if it is put in the correct conditions for that process to start. And Caroline, thank you. You probably recognize the voice of Caroline from Project Noortucht, who is passionate about these things. She's told us over and over again the conditions for composting in your home compost pit are not the same as an industrial grade composting system, and the kind of chemical reactions, the temperatures that get reached to trigger those reactions, etc., cannot happen in your average home setting.
So this product is, I took a picture in the store, bamboo wipe 60s made by Bamboo Earth, but there were no contact details, as I said. The claim in large letters on the front is 100% organic, compostable, biodegradable. And that's why I wanted to speak to the company. But
compostable
clearly,
in what circumstances?
Yeah. There weren't any asterisks there to explain. But yeah, I really do, and we can come back next week perhaps, I really do want to engage with that company to find out.
Under what conditions they would.
I don't know if they manufactured overseas, but there should be an address.
Yeah, at the very least.
Of a local company that imports them or whatever, and there absolutely is nothing.
So that's a problem in terms of our labelling laws, for one thing. Amber's saying, I've bought biodegradable panty liners, pads and tampons before, but have always wondered how degradable or landfill friendly they actually are. I think the answer is the same. It depends on where they go and what conditions they are put into, whether they can actually begin the process of degrading properly. Now, let's just... Caroline used the word greenwashing, and it's the word I used in our engagement, in our prep for the segment, Wendy, because my question to you is, why are brands allowed to get away with this kind of greenwashing of marketing a product as flushable, making the consumer believe that it is going to disappear in a responsible way when they know full well, they have to know full well that it's not going to do so. You mentioned earlier there are no sort of legally binding standards for that claim of flushable.
No, and there have been several lawsuits, though, that have challenged the manufacturer's claims. Procter & Gamble settled a federal class action lawsuit in New York 5 years ago, agreeing to remove the claim that their Charmin Freshmates are, quote, safe for sewer and septic systems. The plaintiffs had argued that the wipes don't disintegrate upon flushing or break down sufficiently to pass through pipes and could thus cause serious problems for plumbing, sewer and septic systems. This is also, I mean, before you get to the global, the bigger issue of our municipal systems is your own plumbing systems. Yeah. I would imagine that there were some plumbing bills related to things that were said to be flushable and actually ended up clogging.
Yeah.
But we do have, there was the Green Drop Report's findings on failing wastewater infrastructure in this country, suggesting that wipes contribute to the problem as they do globally. And the city of Cape Town most definitely considers them a no-no. Mayoral Committee member for Water and Sanitation, Councillor Zahid Badruddin, told us that improper disposal of wet wipes is a massive issue in Cape Town, affecting the operations at pump stations, causing sewer blockages that lead to sewer overflows and even causing damage to the city's water and sanitation infrastructure. He said, it's important to remember that only the 3 Ps can be flushed: pee, poop, and paper, in brackets toilet paper, not the moist stuff.
That's a good and easy way to remember it, that nothing else should be going down the loo. Yeah.
Anything else that makes its way into the drainage system will eventually cause a blockage or damage the system. While it may not seem that one flushed wet wipe here and there is enough to cause these problems, it's the accumulation of wet wipes, cooking fat, nappies and other items disposed incorrectly by many people that can quickly cause a large solid wall, that fatberg, that stops the flow of sewage. That's what Councillor Badruddin said.
Can I just say, if you ever need convincing as to why you don't want to be in a situation where your sewer system is unable to cope with the flow of sewage, do yourself a favor and watch the Netflix documentary on the poop cruise and see what they went through when that happened in a contained environment of a ship. And you will certainly rethink everything that you put down a toilet, is all I will say. Wendy, I mean, you shared that staggering figure of the 1,000 blockages in those 4 Atlantic seaboard suburbs in the space of two years. But the figure for the city overall between December 2023 and January 2024, so a year basically, a year and 1 month.
Not even a year. That's peak season. That's Christmas, 15th of December 2023 to 15th January 24. So that's
it's just a couple of weeks.
It's a month essentially, but it's the peak month. Cape Town recorded more than 8,400 sewer blockages. So you must imagine their maintenance teams, while everyone else is holidaying, is now on full active duty. The biggest culprits: condoms, earbuds, wet wipes, rags, plastics, nappies, and cotton swabs.
And I'm going to add to that, anybody, and Jamie has mentioned this in his message, anybody who has ever taken part in a beach cleanup will know lollipop
definitely.
Sticks are part of that problem.
Huge.
And Jamie actually wrote to me to say he spoke to Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis about this in 2022, and he told me he had expressed his request to lollipop manufacturers to please change the sucker sticks to paper, and that it had been ignored, and that these remain frequent offenders in clogging drains and washing up on the beaches.
Yeah, because they get tangled and all sorts of other things.
I've
done
ubiquitous.
Many, and
they are
terrible.
Everywhere.
They're terrible.
Absolutely everywhere. Cigarette butts, another problem. Sanitary products, especially nappies, etc. So 8,400 blockages in a single month over peak season. I mean, that is absolutely horrifying. So remember those 3 Ps. That's a very simple way of holding on to it as to what can be managed by the system. Wendy, you okay, now let's drill down to what the manufacturers actually said, because you did challenge several of them in preparation for today's segment. Tell us about those engagements.
Okay, so Baby Soft Moist Toilet Tissue claims to be 100% safe to flush as well as biodegradable. They are recommended to be used together with dry toilet tissue for superior cleaning. So you're going to put your paper down and this wet wipe.
Sure.
So I asked Kimberly Clark for evidence of the safe to flush and biodegradable claims. The answer came, they're made from 100% cellulose fibers and don't contain plastic. They are safe to flush when disposed of correctly. That's an important proviso there, because a lot of people...
What does that mean?
They were saying, I think they're the ones, no more than 2 sheets at a time.
2 sheets... Join up with somebody else's 2 sheets, join up with the neighbor's 2 sheets, become 6, and you have a problem.
A lot of people, now you're saying, you must have this product to have a superior clean rear end. So now you're going to use
toilet paper
maybe
plus
3 or 4 sheets.
Yeah.
Our Baby Soft Moist toilet tissues meet all industry standards and are designed to break down in the sewer system and not cause blockages. Kimberly Clark is a proud member of INDA. Remember I spoke about INDA and something else called EDANA, Associations of Non-Woven Manufacturers and Suppliers. All its tests must be conducted and passed to demonstrate conformance and to claim flushable. So these are industry standards and tests, remember. They're not
it sounds like industry needs to be having a conversation with
about
people in charge of the sewer system.
Yeah. I also spoke to GQ Tissue. That company has the brand Satin Touch, and they put out flushies.
The name says
it all.
Yeah.
And it's very big on, it's got a picture of a toilet on the front and lots of flushing action.
Yeah, so it's very obviously intended to be flushed. And the recommended use 3 to 4 sheets per flush.
Oh, okay.
Is what it says on the
Thanks
packaging.
for picking that up. 3 to 4 nogal.
Yeah.
Okay. So apparently the product is called, that they're made from, it's called BioFlush, which is, doesn't say much, but it can decompose 100% in the nature and disperse in the water. It's produced using 100% natural sources, kind to the skin, BioFlush helps to make life easier for everybody by not clogging the toilets and city sewages. The flushability of BioFlush has been approved by 7 tests, which were performed by CTP laboratories in France, according to the regulations EDANA and INDA. So those are the 2 guidelines, regulations that are industry manufactured.
Okay, so
Right.
they're all falling back on the same response.
Yes.
That lab testing has confirmed that they break down, but clearly, what the lab testing conditions
They
are
should come and talk to.
demonstrating is not correlating with what is happening in our sewer system in Cape Town.
Exactly. So Annette Devonish owns SaniTouch. They make a very huge players in the wipe market. They make a very wide range from medical grade used in hospitals to lappies used at the braai. They don't make any flushable wipes, but they do claim biodegradability and recyclability. She says the problem is that wet wipes are, and that's what I said at the beginning, are by nature supplied wet. They need wet strength. So by nature, a wet wipe needs to be strong enough to not tear while wiping or cleaning. I mean, it's really not what you want,
Yeah.
especially being used in a toilet situation. They also need shelf life, so they need to stay wet in a solution on a shelf or in stores without starting to biodegrade and break down prior to use. The wet strength comes from either binders or from fibers which are entangled to be strong, whether they're natural or not. They are entangled to be strong and not break down in a water solution because that's how they've got to sit on the shelf and that's how they've got to be fully formed in your
Hold
hand.
structural integrity while being used. Yeah.
And I think this, if people can just get this in their minds, it'll maybe like hit home. So she says, and coupled with human nature, which says never take one wipe at a time, but take more, the mass is often more of a problem than the actual wipe itself. If one small wipe was used and flushed at a time, the chance of sewage lines blocking would be minimized. Another big problem in South Africa, says Annette, is that we have sewage systems that are not being upgraded, with many, many municipal systems having to try to cope with way more waste than they were originally designed to do with the influx of people into the cities. So she says they have wipes not designed to go in the toilet but on the toilet seat, eco wipes to clean toilet seats made from wet strength paper. They contain a minimal amount of binder, which is what makes them strong enough to hold the liquid that's needed to pre-saturate the wipes. They're very thin. The base is similar instructions to tea bag paper, and they will biodegrade over time in the right conditions in an active compost heap. She says, but they don't call them flushable because they don't want
so
even
those should by rights work in a properly working compost heap. Compost heap implies a home setting, not an industrial composter.
That we have ANCs, which are some kind of ant, I forget the full name, which at night will, deal with those very effectively.
And munch on them.
And really interestingly, since we're talking wipes, SaniTouch does a green wipe in collaboration with Checkers. You'll see them at the front of the stores. And those wipes, because they invite you to put them at the bottom and dispose of them there, as well as the containers, I think it's polypropylene that they come in, are fully recyclable. And they're in this joint venture with Checkers, Checkers and ShopRite, where they remove those used wipes and those tubs that they come in. And they make pallets, plastic timber, which is used to make outdoor furniture, jungle gyms, and other amazing products. So they can say recyclable.
Okay.
The green SaniTouch wipes that are at the entrance
To
from
wipe the
COVID
trolley.
days. To wipe your hands, to wipe the trolley, yes.
Okay.
That's supply free. And
Okay.
they very much are involved in getting that whole lot recycled.
So as you said, it's recyclable and also actively being recycled.
You have to have a project to enable that claim if you're going to, because that's why I said, tell me about your recyclable claim. And she did in great detail, which I've summarized down to very little here.
Somebody making an interesting point. I find that taking one wipe is almost impossible.
True.
So with my daughter, it takes a few at a time. So even if you intended to only use one, I hear what you're saying, and I remember that the way that they come out of it's the same with tissues, especially at the start of a box.
Yes.
You're trying to take one, you get a fistful in one go.
And even toilet paper at the beginning of the roll, if we're talking about that, the way some of them are glued. I mean, you have to take this huge wad just to
wheel away the little half-broken bits. I hear you.
So finally, I just want to mention Clicks, because they are the brand owner and retailer of My Earth eco-friendly flushable baby wipes. So they're saying to the moms, use this on your babies and then flush.
Yeah.
Right? And they make the claim 100% flushable and biodegradable, designed to disintegrate during municipal treatment, reducing landfill waste. And so I asked them to substantiate, and the answer was that their wipes are made from viscose cellulose and wood pulp, making them plastic-free, 100% flushable and biodegradable. The wipe itself is 100% paper, in brackets cellulose, and not made of any synthetic material. The wipe is then considered wet toilet paper when used. They say their independent tests have been conducted by
the same lab in France,
the same
CBD,
French
yes.
lab, using the guidelines for assessing the flushability of disposable non-woven products. So they're all citing the same guidelines, which experts and this sort of thing are saying they're too lenient in real life. I mean, before they've gone, I think the one stat or guideline I read was they must disintegrate within 3 minutes. And as I said, that's someone saying
It's
that's
just not happening.
too late. So I think we go back to Councillor Zahid Badruddin's advice. Only the 3 P's, please. Pee, poop, and toilet paper, the old-fashioned paper, toilet paper, not the moist stuff. That's what, don't shoot the messenger, manufacturers. That is what the city is saying. And I would imagine that any other municipality in this country would be echoing that.
Okay, so please take it with a pinch of salt. What the packaging says and what happens in real life, active environment, in a real life sewer setting, they're not the same thing. And you're hearing that loud and clear. And if you have any doubt about whether the city is exaggerating the nature of this project, of this problem, please go and take a look on our social media pages. We have shared and accredited to them the photographs shared by City of Cape Town, which demonstrate the way that these wipes clog up the pumps, the catchment systems, etc. It is a very accurate visual representation of the nature of the problem. And clearly, the wipes that reached those grids did not biodegrade and disintegrate as they were intended to do in the system. So please go and take a look if you have any remaining doubts. And it's not just Cape Town. If you need any further comment, Belinda's saying wet wipes on the Fish River Canyon hike. A terrible thing to behold.
Yeah.
That's awful.
I think we should also just say, in connection with those photos, a lot of those wipes will be ones which the manufacturers didn't specifically say you can flush these.
Right,
but
to be fair.
But it's user issue, they chose to. So it's just to say, don't assume. And I think the complication comes in where some are marketed as flushable and some aren't, and consumers might get the idea that it just looks a thin little thing, I'm just going to pop it down. And if you've had babies like both of us have, I mean, one wipe
is never enough
to
do the job
in many circumstances. So it's going to be many, and I think to a large extent it's those ones that are doing a lot of the damage. So we can't blame it all on the ones that are marketed as flushable. But I think we've heard the evidence about are they really biodegrading in time?
And the answer is emphatically no. So please keep that in mind, particularly next time you want to flush anything down your system in Cape Town.